Welcome, everybody, to the Coach Brew podcast. Another special episode. We are on a roll, and I am bringing you today a very special guest, a friend, a colleague, someone who I think is a visionary leader. And I know you guys enjoy interviews way more than just hearing from me because, well, you tell me that. So Ryan Vaughan, who is the president and CEO of the Rios of Mercedes family of brands. They are boot makers, and he will not disappoint. He is. I respect and admire Ryan for a couple of reasons. I think he has a great deal of emotional intelligence. He is a visionary leader, and it's just you marry that emotion, like that EQ, with a lot of just common sense. And these are two of the things that we're going to talk about today. Two things that Ryan and his team do very, very well that I think you're going to want to steal a page from his playbook after you listen to this one. Ryan, welcome to the podcast. It is still so cold up here that I'm seriously contemplating putting my Christmas tree back up. It's been raining for 72 hours straight. So I want you to make everyone in the Northeast jealous by giving us the weather report in Mercedes, Texas today.
I'm sleeved up. I got the straw on, so that's one thing you can tell. We did have a little snap come through. They got it down into the high 70s, low 80s. But yeah, it's we're probably touching 90 degrees today and had a beautiful weekend. But it's there is a magical time to be down in South Texas, and it's about October through April, and that's when we get a lot of the winter visitors that come down and live. And so we're in that spring transition to summer. I was actually looked up of when summer actually starts is the end of June, but our summer starts about mid-May. So it's hard to call it spring, but yeah,
that's when it hits triple digits.
What's that?
That's when it hits triple digits.
We actually don't hit triple digits down here that much, oddly enough. That's a little because we get that we're right on the coast. So we get a nice Gulf breeze that just gets hot and humid. And so yeah, you get up to Dallas and Houston, and they get the triple digits at kind of drier heat. Not Houston, but yeah. So it's that breeze kind of keeps us cooled down. So, but yeah, it's nice down here right now. And you were down here not that long ago, so you know.
It's beautiful. Send us some of that weather, man.
We've been getting some good rain, so it is green and lush. The mesquite trees are in full force, and grass is growing and sugar canes popping. So lots of good stuff. Onions are coming out of the field, 10-15 sweet onions. So it's a fertile time, and nice to be seeing that going.
Well, in Maine, at the time of this recording, it is mud season. You'll be happy to know, if you're not familiar, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with the weather in northern New England, you will be happy to know we get all four seasons. We get deer season, winter, April mud season, and May black fly season. The black fly, I think, is the state bird here in Maine. And then we have this thing that takes place for 1 week in late July they call summer. And those are our four seasons, Ryan. So you wonder why I want to move to Texas.
Come on down.
Yeah. So for people who aren't familiar with the name Ryan Vaughan, shame on you. You should have bought my book, Stadium Status, and read the thing, and you would know exactly who Ryan Vaughan is. One unique fact about Ryan, I think this is a great jumping off point. Now that I've just shamed everybody who hasn't bought in the book you're featured in, is you're a Red Sox fan in South Texas. You can't get any further south in Texas than where you are, and you're a Boston Red Sox fan. So let's just start there. Explain that, please.
Well,
it's all my listeners up here, you're really going to win over and very much ingratiate yourself with them.
Well, there's two numbers that drew me to that, and the number is 21, 2-1. Roger the Rocket Clemens went up there to go pitch, and he was my boyhood idol. Went to the University of Texas. In fact, I was watching Sunday night baseball game last night. It was the Astros versus the Phillies, little rematch. And his boy is playing for the Phillies. Yep. And he was on ESPN too, talking with A-Rod. And anyway, it was neat to see him talking through his boy's progress. And he went to UT as well. And anyway, so yeah, Roger Clemens. I wore 21 all through high school. I was a right-handed pitcher. I thought I'd had that same look and feel. So yeah, and then once he got up there and I started following a little bit more. Of course, they made the run of Big Papi and Johnny Damon, not Johnny Damon. Johnny Damon.
Yeah, Johnny Damon.
And that whole group. And so yeah, and then my wife and I, when we took off on our honeymoon, we did a baseball stadium tour all up the East Coast. She wanted to go sightseeing. East Coast, and I'm not much of a sightseeing guy, and so she turned it around and turned it into a baseball stadium tour. And so
that's sightseeing. That's stadium status sightseeing.
I'm telling you, it made me a believer. We caught 15 stadiums, only 14 games. The Braves were out of town when we went through there, which is actually my dad played in the Braves organization, and so the Braves were my team growing up.
Sure.
But then the Red Sox were my American League team, but. Anyway, we caught a day game at Fenway and sitting out in the outfield bleachers and pulled shirt off. And the only thing I was really frustrated was they wouldn't serve me a cold beer because I was 22 years old or whatever it was, 22, and a Texas ID. Apparently, you got to be 25 or something like that. And I was like, what?
That's ridiculous.
So a little frustrated about that, but I've been back a couple times since, and yeah, I really enjoy Fenway and the Red Sox, and the fan base is just very fervent and wild. It's an exciting time. Actually, caught a couple of Red Sox to Yankees, and not where you want to take your teenage daughter to.
No. Vocabulary lessons. So how'd you feel about Clemens going to the Yankees? That must have been a little weird, right?
Yeah, that was. I think I had already kind of, I guess maybe I graduated past the point of, not to say that I wasn't a fan of his, but wasn't in that high school baseball craze and things. I think it had already, that it didn't hurt my feelings too bad. I think it had already gone too. I think there was already some, that lost, anyway, the Yankees and their evil empire just kind of always pick up people in the house. So I don't remember being too heartbroken about it.
We picked up Johnny Damon too.
No,
yeah, that's just what they do. They I don't know, they fit, what is it, fishing dead waters? Is that the term, right? But so we're talking like stadium tours, and really what I want to talk about is sort of related to stadium tours. It's a little thing called a listening tour. But before we can dive into what your listening tours are and what they entail, if you could tell us, for those who don't know, tell us what the Rios of Mercedes family of brands is and encompasses. And so I say that as your official, unofficial, freelance celebrity spokesperson for one of the brands within your family of brands, Anderson Bean Cowboy Boots. So I'll let you take it from there. I mean, I think that is my unofficial title I've given myself. Is that fair?
I'll see if we can get some cards made out for you, some business.
Perfect.
Cards. Yeah, so we make cowboy boots, and the Rios of Mercedes was our kind of the patriarch company, started by the Rios family in 1853 down in General Mexico. They came up to the border right around the time of settling this area, where we had the U.S. military come down here to kind of protect and keep things safe from all the banditos and crew out of Mexico. And that's when a lot of development started happening, and we started getting a lot of the folks from the Midwest and the North coming down to the valley. Fertile soil, plenty of the Rio Grande River runs just along here, and a lot of farms and crops and vegetables were growing down here. And so the Rios family moved over to Mercedes to try to take advantage of all this money that was coming in to build them cowboy boots. And so it's the Rios family in the city of Mercedes. One of the brothers, Abraham, went up to Raymondville. And so there was Rios of Raymondville, which focused on the cattle guys, a little bit more of the ranch country. And Zeferino Rios focused a little bit more on the fancy dress them up town boots. And so you fast forward, they focus on custom boots for many, many years, made a lot of boots for famous people and all that kind of stuff. And my father-in-law and his dad, through a long series of events, came down to run the factories for a group of oil and gas investors that bought it from Zeffirino. Ended up purchasing the company in the mid 70s, and it's been family owned since. In
You
the
had
80s,
you had said they made boots for some famous people. Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it John Wayne wore Anderson Bean the Lone Star boots during the Battle of the Alamo?
you got me there. I think that was all a part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
Maybe a little blurry on the facts there. No.
I make it up as I go, but that sure sounded good to me.
I think that's great. Yeah, I'll let you quote yourself on that one. But yes, they started
fact check me.
Anderson Bean brand is started in the 80s to try to create a more moderate price boot. So the Rios was pretty high end. There's a big market, and so they actually named it for a trainer, Evans, my father-in-law, his mom and grandmother, Helen Anderson and Macy Bean. They were longtime ranch women that felt like never got the credit they deserved. They fourth, fifth generation ranching families over West Texas, New Mexico border. And so he named it after the ladies to try to bring a little bit of recognition to them. And we
I'm wearing a women's boot.
Name for tough old broads. You probably wouldn't want to catch those gals in a back pasture and in the dark, that's for sure. So so we built those two boots here, and then we bought the Olathe Boot Company out of Olathe, Kansas, that has roots to Hire Boot Company that started in 1875. And so Olathe and Anderson Bean are made here in this factory. I'm pointing because I'm looking out at the factory, and then Rios is right next door. And then we make a kids boot line down in Mexico. And then in mid 2000s, 05, we started a brand called Horsepower and another brand called Macy Bean. And that's our more price point boot lines. And those are made down in Leon, Guanajuato in Mexico. And so we bring those up, we sell them. We only do wholesale, no retail, no direct to consumer. We work through our wholesale partners. And so we've got the 5 brands that is the family of brands.
Sure. And Olathe, if I'm not mistaken, is the oldest boot company in the United States, or like the oldest continually operating. Like what?
Yeah, there's a little bit of gray area there because it was the Hire Boot Company made in Olathe, Kansas.
Okay.
And so all the cowboys would say, you're going to go out to Olathe and get your boots. And so it kind of transitioned to just being called, oh yeah, go get your Olathe boots. And
Gotcha.
so the Hire Boot Company sold to a company out of El Paso in the 70s and left all of the stuff there. And the employees ended up starting back the factory and calling it Olathe Boot Company. So
that's some cool history and heritage there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there's brands like Justin and Tony Lama and Luke Casey that have very deep roots. So there's a lot of big heritage brands in our industry.
Do you want me to edit out all their names so we don't mention the competition?
Hey, competition is good. We like competition. In fact, that's better. And we need our retail partners having good brands in their stores. I mean, you don't want to walk into a Western store and just see nothing but private labels and no brands in their store. I mean, that's kind of like going into a department store and not seeing Polo and Tommy Hilfiger and Louboutin shoes. I mean, you need good brands. I mean, you need that in your industry. So no, I can appreciate the other brands that are making footwear. Don't worry.
And I think that's one of the things I love about Ryan, everybody, is he really does believe rising tide raises all ships. And yeah, it's something I've always bought into, that like, good speaking, if a company brings in another speaker other than me, like good speaking begets more good speaking. You don't want people to have a bad experience with somebody or something, in your industry or in your market. You want them to have good experiences. And so, you deal exclusively through retailers. Retailers often carry these other competitors in their stores, which this is a nice segue. I don't know if you did this on purpose, Ryan, but this is a nice segue into how you elevate and separate yourself from that competition, just through like the personal attention that you give, and also as part of that, your listening tour. So I'd love to dive into that, and then we can kind of unpack how you make sure everything stays very unique for your individual retailers. If you could tell us just a little bit about the listening tour and how that, what was the genesis of that, and just how you've reaped the benefits from it.
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate your making this time for it, and yeah, it's an interesting thing where sometimes we think we're smarter than we are, and when you start looking back, whenever you came down to write that piece on the book, I hadn't really thought about it before, because I don't think I'm a very good listener, John. I really don't. Like a lot of times I'm trying to think where we need to be and how, and especially in a conversation with a retailer, is what are they going to ask me next? What do I need to show them to have the right product mix? And so it kind of caught me by surprise whenever we were talking through that. And he said, wow, you really have gotten to where this is because you listen to your retailers. And I said, yeah, I guess it kind of is. And it wasn't so much a declared that, it was, we have a team of sales reps that travel the country. And so our sales reps are our, front and center representatives in the stores. And so the core of our business is they walk in with samples and swatches and let the retailer design boots exactly that they want for their store. And they'll order 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20, 30, yep. 50 pairs that are specific for them. And so they can take a lot of pride in the uniqueness and things. Well, that's great. And they get that partnership with the sales rep, but the sales rep also carries hats, also carries saddles, also carries tack, also carries jeans and shirts. And so they got a lot going on. And so there may be a lot in that interaction and that partnership that maybe doesn't get conveyed to me, to the factory, and implementing changes and what they're asking for, what sales they missed and things. And so one of the things that we really started doing was going to our top retailers and spending a weekend with them. And we do these things called trunk shows. But our trunk show is more than just like, hey, you can come buy these things. I mean, it's a very involved 2-3 day process where they invite their top customers in to come and design boots and do the uniqueness. But what we get is that we get that feedback of what leathers are they looking for? What toe profiles are we missing? What color combinations are really hot? People, it's always funny. We work with a couple of big brands, and they're projecting color shades for fall 2024. And I mean, man, I don't know what's going to be like next week. And so it's you really get a lot more interaction whenever you're seeing, and even just watching what your end users are wearing, seeing the different trends working, especially when you get out to some of these college towns, like Lubbock's a great one. Texas Tech. I mean, a lot of kids come from all over the South, all over the country, but especially our core areas. We kind of have what I call the Golden Triangle, which is Oklahoma City, Fort Worth, Amarillo. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's very odd to say, but that's where trends in our industry are driven. And it's because, and this from some of the hat makers you've been talking to, the JW Brooks and the Biggers, is the people who go into those stores and in those custom, they get exactly what they want. You got a couple of custom hats on order right now, don't you?
Yes.
You got exactly what you wanted.
Yep.
You walk into a regular store, you're going to buy what they have in stock. Yep. And so it's the same.
And that's all they're going to sell. That's all they're going to try and sell you. Right. What do I need to tell this guy to get him to buy so I can unload my inventory I have?
And that may have been what the cool guys were wearing a year or two ago. It's made it all the way to the retail store, but the custom guys are going and getting the things that they can't find in the other stores, and that's what ends up driving it. And so, like, there's a great event. In fact, you'd really get a kick out of it if it's the Working Ranch Cowboy Association Finals in Amarillo, Texas. And I mean, and these are the punchiest of the punchiest cowboys. I mean, they come right off the ranch, and I mean, and it's a ranch rodeo, but it's fun. But you
Nice.
watch, and there's a whole exhibit hall full of handcrafted custom stuff. I mean, bits and spurs and saddles and jewelry and saddle blankets and boots and hats. I mean, and it's the cool stuff. And those guys will save the money to get the good, cool stuff.
Yep.
And so the more you listen and learn and go out to West Texas, go out to Amarillo, go to Oklahoma City. I mean, I was just in Fort Worth 5 days ago for the team roping United States team roping championship finals, and went and visited retailers. You just have to listen, and you can't be bigger than you think you are. And I think that's the thing, is we're such a small blip in the boot making world. And the big picture is we need our retailers more than they need us. And there's a lot of companies that take that opposite approach, and I think they kind of lose focus on who's most important.
So for people listening and who are thinking like, this is a really obscure subject matter, it's very niche. You're talking about like custom cowboy boots. You're talking about the Western industry. Like, this has nothing to do with me. I'm a suit, or, I'm a real estate agent. I sell insurance. It actually has everything to do with you. And there are just so many parallels, because sales is all about listening. It's about understanding what people want. You can't sell them what you want to sell them. You have to sell them what they want or need. And, it's fascinating that we can extract these takeaways from something that is this niche and this unique. But yeah, absolutely. I would encourage everyone who's listening to figure out what your golden triangle is for your industry, for your company. Who within that geographic footprint is driving the trends in terms of your market, your industry, and what you have to sell, and how are you listening to them? Like, that's a big immediate takeaway for everyone listening, thinking cowboy boots have nothing to do with me. Well, maybe they don't. You're just not yet. You're not enlightened enough yet, maybe, to own a pair of custom cowboy boots. We'll get you there, right? But it's about creating your own version of the listening tour. And it's fascinating, Ryan. That book came out in 2017, and you're one of 2 companies that I know in the 6 years since it's been out, one of only 2 that does anything remotely like a listening tour. And the other company is my friend Derek Volk's company, Volk Packaging. So it's a very sexy industry. They sell corrugated cardboard. But what they do is they do their own variation of what you do, and they do a thank you tour. They don't send a sales rep. They send the owner of the company to each of their customers, and he just goes up in the summertime and just plots a route and goes, from customer to customer, and stops in, spends a little bit of time in the morning, maybe has coffee, maybe has lunch, walks around their plant and gets a chance to see their operation, and just wanted to come in, schedule an appointment with you just to say thank you. He's not there to sell them anything. He's not there to upsell them anything or cross-sell them anything or tell them the prices are going up. He's not there to do anything other than say thank you. And then he asks one question: how can we serve you better next year? And then he shuts up and he lets them tell him, here's how your people can serve us better. And I think that's some of the wizardry and the magic of what you guys do too, is like, it's not a salesperson going on a listening tour who's worried about making a quota, who maybe represents other products. It's people, who have their radar on and their antennas up, listening for specific feedback and opportunities, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I like that. Thank you, Tor. I think that's the thing, is sometimes we don't realize where that inspiration or where that creativity, you don't know where it's going to come from. And I think if you're isolated to being around where you think it's going to come from, which in the fashion world is kids that are coming out of college with design degrees or with great fashion and marketing sense and things, just like, all right, we have some really smart people in our industry that are trying to drive the trends, but it's the sure enough cowboys that are doing it. And who are the cowboys in your industry? And when I say cowboys, the ones that are doing it differently. And I mean, I think that's where you get into these serial entrepreneurs that are always looking, how can I do this, but do it differently and do it better? And I think every industry's got that. And it's, are you going and identifying them? And I think the other thing is, are you the real deal? I mean, are they going to talk to you? And are you going to, I mean, it's one thing for you to show up and say, hey, tell me what toes and heels are selling, or tell me what kind of hat styles are selling. And I go, who's this guy? So, I mean, being in it and being the real deal, I mean, I think that goes a long way, especially in the Western industry, but probably in just about industries.
And I think one of the unique things about your industry is it's about quality as much as it is, even more than it is about appearance, fashion, color, because I would say the parallel is also with cowboy hats. People will spend a lot of money on a pair of custom boots or a custom hat because it is a piece of equipment. It is a tool that helps them perform their craft better. They're not going to skimp on the quality of their tools. A mechanic, an auto mechanic isn't going to go to Walmart and buy cheap wrenches. He's going to buy the best that his budget could possibly allow because it will make him better at his craft and more efficient. And so
yeah, I think that's exactly what the budget will allow. I think, I mean, that's the thing, is like the boots that we build out of Mexico. In fact, I'm wearing a pair right now. We're 14 months out on delivery in our domestic stuff, so I'm not even stopping to make boots for myself. But it's a darn good boot for the money. I mean, it's a good value proposition, and not everybody needs a $700 pair of cowboy boots. Not everybody needs a $300 pair of cowboy boots. Some people are good with $180, $200 pair, dollar cowboy boots, but it's what you're going to wear them for and what kind of tools you need from it. But and I think that's, and I'm sure this is, I was just told this at a pretty young age in my career, because I spent 14 years in production and purchasing and day in day out operations. I wasn't raised in the sales side of things, and I moved over to that after some time to take over for Pat Moody, who was a longtime sales manager and partner in the company. But a retailer of ours taught me the 4 tenets of selling, and it was sell yourself. And I think that's one of the big things. That if you don't trust me, you're not going to listen to a word I say after that. And so building that trust up is a big deal, which is, for the most part, our sales reps position. But having that trust, especially I think in the Western industry, is there's a lot that goes along with a good handshake and doing what you say you're going to do. And then it's sell the house. And so thankfully, the house that we've got is very well established, has been a lot of years behind it. Mr. Pat, Mr. Trainer have done a great job for years of a good foundation that's been laid in our industry. So that was a pretty easy one. And then you sell the product. And thanks be to God, we've got a really good product with that we build the guts. We really focus on the interior of it. And if you do those last 3 things, the last thing you're going to have to sell on is the price. They won't even ask that. And so I think that's where you go in the Western industry, especially, is honesty and hard work, integrity. The brand, the company is going to back it, and good quality product. They don't even care about the price. And so that's it's really, it brings you a lot of I hate to say good feelings, but it brings security whenever you've got those things backing you, and it's not all about $169.99 and I can get you a discount code and free shipping and free freight. Our retailers don't have to live in that world with our product. And that's a really nice thing that we can provide them.
And to kind of build off of that, I think something that the Rios of Mercedes family of brands does that's very smart, and I encourage all my coaching clients to do this, and I'm encouraging everyone listening to do this, whether it's a product or a suite of products that you have or services. I kind of look at your different boots, your different brands, as sort of like when I craft a proposal for a prospective client, there's good, better, and best scenarios. Now, best is going to be a little more expensive. That's going to be the higher end of the budget. And there's good. And then in between is kind of that midpoint. So Rios is, the top brand, then Anderson Bean. And so you have that good, better, best price structure there for people who are trying to work within their budget to get quality tools, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not doing that, you're listening to this and you're not doing that, you should be doing that immediately. Ryan, what are some of the things that stand out in your mind, just kind of like that your people have brought back, or maybe you've brought back to the business from a listening tour that you've learned and implemented just from listening to the retailer, and you've been able to serve them better, or maybe it's become a best practice that you've incorporated, across the company with all your retailers?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that crosses my mind is the passion that our retailers have for us not competing directly with them. I used to think that was something that was going to get overlooked. Whenever some of the brands around us started going direct to consumer, they were so big that our retailers had to have them in their stores.
Yeah.
It was they needed them more than we needed, and then
it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. We got to carry you, but we're also going to resent the fact that you've kind of declared war on us.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought when that happened, great, here comes the retailers. They're going to be knocking down our door for orders. And what I realized is that we had to really separate ourselves as a strong partner, and coming back and creating unique opportunities for each of our retailers to have something different and something unique. So listening to what their unique needs were, and then whenever I'm on in the purchasing meetings and meeting with leather suppliers, I can remember that Davis Western Trading, who works with the cutting horse industry, she needed really nice heavy top leathers because these guys have 16-inch tops. They've got their caps on them. They're riding day in, day out. And so I bring a leather line specific to that cutting horse industry. And she's like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Linda Davis, I just earn a lot more of a partnership with her because I'm giving her what she's needing, as opposed to dictating, hey, these are the cool leathers for the year, but really crafting something. And you can't do that for everybody, but you can pinpoint those specific groups of retailers that need a higher end fashion, a different exotic experience, doing some more black cherries and higher end finishes and dresses. There's a group, you'll go to like the Pinto Ranch in Houston and Dallas. That's a very different customer than the cutting horse industry. And then we've got a really strong following in Japan. And so that's a whole different type of booth.
Which is fascinating to me in and of itself.
It is. It really is unique and different. And so they want heritage. They want like 4 Ween tan leathers, which is a Chicago tannery. That's so identifying those things that really separate you from the crowd with that retailer group and then the customer base. And so if I can own my position in their store in one thing, then guess what? They want to partner with me in the things that aren't so unique and different. And so I've got a boot out of Mexico that's just a black full quill ostrich boot there's 6 other people that are making the same boot as me. Now, hold on. Now, I don't have a niche there, but the niche is you want to do business with me and with our company, and not just me, but our company, because we are good partners. And so when I don't have a niche, I need to be the niche. I don't deal direct with you. I'm going to be a strong partner with you. I'm not going to have that boot in every door of every Western store or every farm and ranch store or every Tractor Supply. And so that was what I used to kind of struggle with, is I wanted to make sure that whatever we were doing with whatever brand, that I can say I was the very best at it.
Yeah.
But whenever you get into more of a commodity world, you can't be the best at the commodities anymore. And so you have to figure out what the niche is. And all of a sudden it's our company and our family of brands. And so that's when we really started to embrace, this is the family. Do you want to do business with our family? Because we were Trainer and Pat were very strategic about don't mix quality from Rios to Anderson Bean and Anderson Bean to Olathe and Olathe to Horsepower. Very clear in their quality and in their branding. And so we didn't tell a lot of that, oh, we are a family. But the more that we started realizing that that's a niche in itself is when we really started embracing that and hearing that from our retailers. That was probably more long-winded answer. I get really excited when I start talking about our companies and the things that we're doing. We got a lot of good stuff, but a lot to learn too. So
no, when you talk about a family of brands, and it is a family business that has heritage and a rich history, like I think it's also relatable to, you know, a lot of your retailers, you know, who are mom and pop operations, a small family business that grew into a couple different locations. So that makes it super relatable. I think big takeaway, you know, here for everyone is like it's about building goodwill and creating social equity, and that starts with, you know, being honest and selling yourself, as Ryan said. Um, what is what's the strategy behind you send tech reps on the listening tour? Break that down a little bit for us and explain sort of what a tech rep is and why it's not a person.
So we've got a team of tech reps that, in fact, we just hired on another one. And so their main task is being on the floor during a normal work week or during a show or an event. Obviously selling product, but whenever, especially if you're in a store experience, a lot of times if the owner walks into a store or a sales rep walks into a store, you're only going to get what they want you to hear.
Yeah.
And you're not hearing the full experience of maybe the bad stuff that they're not talking about. And not to say that I don't get the bag a lot of the time, but you spend more time on the floor and what other brands are doing better than yours, what comfort features another brand has. And so you really listen and learn, and you get a lot more of that from the staff on the floor of that retailer than maybe the boot buyer or maybe the store owner. And so the tech reps really feed a lot more real information, and good or bad. And so I'd say that's probably a little bit more honesty is what you get to hear. Because a lot of times when people, oh, I love Anderson Bean boots, oh, they're the greatest. Yeah, you walk away and they go, but the insoles suck. And I had to change mine out, because they rolled up right at, 5 days after I wore them. Well, oh, okay. Well, they didn't want to tell me that, but they'll tell, Haley that. So anyway, get a little more honest.
One of the greatest questions, and you shared this with me in the book, and if you want all the questions, there's a list of them in the book. You can go to stadiumstatusbook.com and pick up a copy. But one of the questions I thought was brilliant, one of your tech reps asked was, what is something that the competition is doing you wish we were? And that I just thought was really revealing, like, because everyone, like you said, everyone wants to hear the positive, but we learn more from defeat than we do victory.
Yeah.
So like, where are we getting beat? What are we getting beat on that we don't know about that you, Mr. and Miss Retailer, do know? So we can go fix it or we can get better at it. Like, I just thought that was just straight up genius. I'm not sure. I mean, you could take credit. Hey, that was me, John. Or like, I don't know who the tech rep was, but I remember you sharing that with me. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Well, and that's why it's very thought provoking to me. Like I was thinking, I thought you were asking me for an answer because I've got one. But no, I think that's part of being the small guy is you realize the big guys are much better at things than we are. And I mean, I've got 3 or 4 things that I wish I could do better. That these guys whip our rear ends at, and that comes with big overhead and having a big budget and having a publicly owned trading company, traded company behind you that you can go invest in a lot of technology and systems and operations. So, but yeah, I'd love a really good B2B site. Our software and technology, I think, is probably far behind some of that in our competitors, and it makes doing business with us a little bit more challenging than it does with them. So, yeah.
I just thought that was there's a lot of wisdom in that, and it's a difficult question for someone to ask. It's especially a difficult question for a young person to ask, because you're going to hear the truth. I mean, like, And that's something I really do respect about small business owners. Like they're going to tell you the truth, you know, because how you operate and how you service that account affects their bottom line, you know. So they're going to be very forthcoming with that information.
No, it's kind of like the shirt you're wearing, right? You can't take it on the chin and keep
Yep.
going. I mean, you're probably not in the right business. I mean,
Exactly.
you're going to take them left and right, whether you want them or not, whether you ask.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better just to ask and get it over with instead of waiting for the big knockout punch. But yeah, that's
I think people are more polite about it in Texas and the South. You know, I heard once a guy asked his wife on their anniversary, if you had it to do all over again, sweetie, would you marry me? And she said, and this is the difference between a woman from Texas and one from the Northeast. She's like, do this? Put myself through this again? Are you out of your mind? Now, a woman from Texas, if you asked her, honey, you know, if you had to do all over again, would you marry me again? She would say, well, bless your heart. And that also means, are you out of your mind? I wouldn't subject myself to this again. Yeah. So, like, there's a level of civility and politeness down there that you probably don't get in, like, let's say New York or New Jersey or Boston. But yeah, no, it's being willing to listen to the truth and take feedback and then go do something about it. So as you're listening to this, I hope you are thinking about how you can create a listening tour for your business. And, you know, people are going to push back on this, Ryan, because it takes time and it takes resources. And they're going to say, oh, I'm too busy. We're always busy. And that's bunk. That is horse manure. There are busy seasons and there's downtimes in every industry. If you look carefully enough, you'll figure out in your industry and your business when things are a little slower. You know, like in retail, their Super Bowl is Black Friday until after New Year's, and then there's some downtime. But I think it's important during that downtime. That's when you invest in, you know, traveling to do a listening tour. And it's something, fun fact, the Red Sox did for many years. Their front office would go travel to, you know, their minor league affiliate markets and all over New England and just hold kind of town hall meetings. I would say it was a version of a listening tour. And they'd ask their fan base, hey, what would you like to see differently? What'd you like? What didn't you like? How can we better serve you? And that's where they got the idea to freeze ticket prices 1 year, gluten-free menu options, a host of other ideas. You know, I think those listening tours probably went better when they were traveling, you know, with a nice big World Series trophy from that year that the fans could take pictures with while they were there. That's just a hunch, though. But yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing is they would do that after the season's over. And it's actually when the front office of a Major League Baseball team is at their busiest because they're planning and strategizing for the next year, contracts, all of that. Like all of that takes place at the end of the season. And they found the time to have that listening tour and go meet their customers face to face. Because like you're not going to get the same information if you emailed them a survey, are you, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely not. No.
Not even close, right? They
might yeah, because a lot of times you don't even know if you're asking the right questions. Yeah, I mean that's
they might not even respond. So, what really struck me, shifting gears a little bit from the listening tour to my last visit with you down there, I got to take a tour of the entire operation. I got to see where all the stitching was done, where the lemon wood pegs were nailed into the soles of the boots, all the different workstations. I was like a kid in a candy store because, well, my name is John Brubaker and I have a cowboy boot problem. I like them entirely too much. Like they had to extract me out of there at one point. But it was just fascinating to see. And then we went over to another building, and this is where I just think there's a lot of wisdom in what you told me, and I'll probably butcher your explanation, but you guys have since expanded, and there are corporate offices in another building. And as you were showing me them, I think it's important for everyone to hear this. I said, wow, this is really nice. This is a great facility, Ryan. And you said, well, thanks. It's unfortunate that the finance folks and some of these corporate offices aren't located where my office is. And that is within the manufacturing facility. And I'm like, why? The air conditioning is fabulous in this building. Like that smells brand new still. And you said, I'll let you say what you told me, because there's just so much wisdom in this. And then I want you to talk about this a little bit. What was your response to me? You remember that?
Yeah, I do need to like get a coined response, but yeah, it's, you don't want to forget what runs the company, and it's manufacturing. I mean, and we get so wrapped up in thinking, oh, I can go out and sell boots all day long, and I'm the greatest sales. I got the greatest sales team, or we've got such cool leathers and cool developments, and we can out design, we can out style, or our customer service is the best, or oh, it's so important because I'm the one paying the bills. We don't have anything if our bootmakers aren't making cowboy boots. Yep. And so that's one of the things that my father-in-law trainer has always been specific about. I'm looking across the factory right now. Carlos Rodriguez, who our operations officer, runs the factory over there. I'm back over the left as our purchasing agent over here. I'm looking right down here in front, human resource department. Over here, the other side of the factory is the marketing team. Up here's the design office side of things, and then across the anyway, so we've got offices spread out all over. So if I want to go meet with our marketing team, I'm going to go walk right through the factory. If I need to go meet with purchasing, I'm walking right through the factory. And so, yeah, that was the thing that was, we just needed more customer service team. We had took over the customer services office with our production team and moved them to a quieter spot where they could have, we had 2 or 3 deep in an office, and you ever call one of those call centers and you can hear everybody talking in the background?
Yeah,
we didn't want that experience. We wanted them to have an individual communication. Sure. And good phone call. So we needed some more space. And then our accounting team, as much as we want them to be involved with the production, I mean, stay focused, eliminate distractions. They were getting all the walk-in traffic from the post office and the mailman and people coming in for job applications in the front office. So yeah, it was a big move that I told him, I said, we're going to move you over here, but you need to get your butt over here to this factory just about every day. And so the customer service team comes in for the production meetings in the morning. The finance team comes over, and we've got regular meetings over here. So yeah, you don't ever want them to forget what makes this company. So,
yeah, I think your exact words, I'm getting closer the more I'm like digging into my memory banks in my brain. So you don't ever want the people counting the money to be too far away from or removed, too physically removed from where the money is made. Like where the people where the money is counted should be very well aware of exactly where the money is made, and the money is made by the people making the product. Otherwise you wouldn't have a product to sell and you wouldn't make sales. And I just think that we're so disconnected as a society right now. Everyone's plugged into their phones, and it's so easy for people to just fire off a text or an email or just pick up the phone, as opposed to walking down the hall or walking from one building over to the next and having a face-to-face, eye-to-eye conversation where you accomplish more. Like, you can't build trust through a text message. You build trust in person. I did a whole rant on another podcast episode about this. There's a company that is hiring a director of corporate culture, and it's 100% virtual position. How can you drive culture anywhere remotely? You can't, but I just thought that was a great sort of like a micro version of what's going on a macro level. Is we have so much technology, like we've taken the human out of, human resources. And one of the things I love, your marketing department is basically in a fishbowl. Like their office is a fishbowl. It's a back wall and then 3 glass windows facing, no matter which way they turn at their desks, different stations on the manufacturing floor. So they see exactly what's going on. And like, I think that can only help you do your job better. You see how it's made, you can tell a better story. You have actual conversations as a customer service rep with the people in production. You're going to be a better problem solver. And that's not just about cowboy boots. That's about anything. And we've gotten so far away from that. Like, it kills me that we weren't able to record this while I was down there. We're actually on Zoom recording it, but like it's become like the Zoom generation and everyone texting. It's so like just getting people back to face and being reminded of this is actually what makes the gears keep turning in our company. It's not me typing away an Excel spreadsheet. It's the people banging nails into the soles of the boots and stitching the leather and packing the boxes and loading the trucks. And that goes for any company. I'd love to hear your thoughts on just like how you kind of weave that into people's day to day and how you create those reminders.
I mean, I think I'm making sure you're saying how do everybody on our team, how do we create that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How are you almost forcing people to engage in more face-to-face communication and get out there and like, so, there's an old management theory called management by walking around. Tom Peters, is famous for creating this concept of management by walking around. And, I know it's something you do, and you constantly witness the operation because of physically where you're located. How do you kind of get other people up out of their desk and, encourage them to walk around and interact as opposed to, emails and phone calls and
yeah, I guess it makes it a little easier because we're all on one campus. I mean, we have, like tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we've got our, what I call our juggernaut meeting, which is our all staff meeting. I mean, we'll have 35, 40 people in there. At 2:30 today, I had a production planning meeting. I mean, we meet in person a lot. We don't, and obviously, and I see our IT guy sitting in Carlos's office right now, probably hashing out some production reports and things that they were working on. So I don't know that I don't think we ever disconnected maybe as much as other companies have. I mean, we've always been a little bit more hands-on, and I think that's part of our culture.
Yeah.
Is that I don't need to email the guy right across the way. I'm going to have a one-on-one with him tomorrow. So that's a good question. I need to be more thoughtful about what it is that we're going to do to maintain that, maybe, because I really like how much we are in person. What I would like to do is get our team on the floor more, actually. Like, it's one thing to walk through it.
Yep.
Another thing to stop and watch the production process, which obviously it takes a little bit more time out of your day to realize all that goes into it. But I think we've got a pretty good culture of in person, and I think that's part of the South Texas side of things too. We haven't. We're still a pretty informal. We get a lot more done sitting in front of each other than we do on a video call.
And it just seems also today, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, so much is done. Like, let's create a paper trail of documentation to cover our own ass, as opposed to like, let's sit down and just have a real conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask. And I encourage anyone, if you have multiple campuses, to get out and travel and do your walking around on other campuses. It's easy to hide behind your cubicle or hide in your office, but that's not where problem solving takes place.
Well, I think putting yourselves in other people's boots, whatever you want to say. I mean, I think that's the more you can put yourselves in their position, the more you'll have a more empathy and sympathy for where they're coming from. And so, you need to understand the struggles of the leather warehouse and trying to get answers on why we're short on certain leathers. And it's easy just to fire off a bunch of grumpy emails going, why can't you give me more red kid skin? And you go back there and you look and you see the 7,000 square feet of 62 different kid skin colors we carry. And it's like, oh, well, there's a lot to manage right here. And you start having a little bit more understanding of what the person's coming from, as opposed to just being a demanding an answer or not understanding what maybe is involved in getting an answer.
Great example. I have a friend who is a sales manager. He doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can go ahead and say I have a friend who's a sales manager who does this. Loves to complain about his salespeople, and they're not doing enough. They're not hitting their quota. They're underachieving. I'm like, you're relatively new to the company. You didn't come up through the ranks there selling. Have you ever actually gone out on a sales call with one of them? Or have you tried selling this product yourself? Have you got crickets? And until you've actually, like you said, walked a mile in their boots, or, maybe it's you're so far removed. If you're a teacher or if you're an administrator listening to this, you're so far removed from actually being in the classroom and teaching, or if you're an athletic director, because I know we have a few of them who listen, and you're so far removed from being on the sidelines as a coach that you forget what it's like and you're complaining about what they aren't able to do. You need to get out and walk around and try walking a mile in their boots. Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that we need to do a better job of getting our team out to see the retail world too, because we don't have a real understanding of what goes on in that store day in and day out. And whenever that retailer has that customer coming in upset that they can't get an answer, all of a sudden it makes it a little bit more realistic of why they're needing information from us and why our B2B needs to be better and things, because that's when we stay in our wholesale manufacturing lane. We think this is the most important world there is. We don't exist if we don't have retailers doing the hard job of day in, day out personal interaction. And so that's part of going out and when you're on your listening side of things, you also start appreciating the hard work that goes on, because it makes me realize I want nothing to do with the retail world, and I'll stay in my lane. But especially when it's Black Friday and I'm off enjoying a few days off for Thanksgiving and those retailers are working double time, you start appreciating it a lot more.
Now you've brought some of them down to your operation to give them a tour as well. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that is a very underutilized asset or underutilized invitation within virtually any company in any industry, is to do that and give people a behind the scenes, bird's eye view.
Yeah, I mean, we've always encouraged our, I'd say top retailers, any retailer, and especially since we've got, any retailer can get here in a matter of a 45-minute flight, Houston, Dallas area, San Antonio, or a 6-7 hour drive isn't too bad, which sounds like a lot to some people. But I mean, and that's, our sales reps can only show so many sample boots or so many swatches. But when you come here and you see 6,000 pairs of boots running through the production process, or go back there and see $3.2 million worth of leather, and I'm not saying that to brag. I mean, it's a huge amount of leather back there. You get to see all of the different colors and things, and so it gets a whole new design process. And really, a lot of the retailers that they'll either come down because they want to design really unique stuff that maybe they're not seeing on the swatch set, or maybe they're bringing their team down for training. I mean, that's a wonderful tool. If you want your retailers, the kids on the floor to be experts, bring them to actually where you make it, where you distribute it. I mean, if you're not making something, is bring your top customers in for training. I mean, even that'll make them good for all brands of what they're selling, but it'll create a whole new level of loyalty once they've seen what you do and have a whole nother level of empathy for the different the intricacies that go on in the manufacturing. Most of the time when the retailers leave here after their first trip, they're going, man, I used to think your boots were pretty pricey. You don't charge enough. I mean,
Wow.
how
Yep.
do you make them so cheap? And so you
Think about that perspective shift, right?
know,
That's huge.
yeah, especially when you're not even selling on price. We're selling on the other three things, and this is and they're saying you should probably be charging more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I mean, and there's a reason why there's not a lot of footwear manufacturing in the U.S. I mean, it's hard what we do, and there's no secrets to what we do. It's what we tell people when they come is take as many videos as pictures as you want. I mean, we want you taking that back to your team because there's no secret to what we do. It's just nobody wants to do it.
Exactly.
It's hard. And so yeah, we love it. It gives us that time to have take them to good Mexican food, have good dinner conversations, and just build that partnership, build that relationship. So it's one thing to go to their backyard, another thing to get them into your backyard, and I think that it just becomes a lot more a lot stronger relationship.
Yeah, if you can get them to bring their team, now you have, their sales force is way more emotionally invested in you and your brand than your competitors that they also carry, and I just think there's a ton of parallels there for people in all sorts of industries, wherever they're located listening to this. Ryan, what's something that I'm a bit of a contrarian, you know that. I love to ask people like, what's something that most people in your industry see very differently than you do? Like, how are you a contrarian in your industry? What do people disagree with you on?
Well, the selling direct to consumer, I think everybody in our industry would think that we're stupid, that we're a dinosaur. I think, and this is probably more of the reason why we're in business isn't making boots. There's a lot bigger effort, a lot bigger work that's going on here, and I'd like to say that I want everybody in our business to have a better way of life at the end of the day. But whenever that really is the reason why, we're not saving lives here, right? We're making cowboy boots, but at the same time, we're touching a lot of lives, and it gives me a renewed passion every day when I see the people coming out of their mold and taking on a leadership role and building with the company. And sometimes it's not even growing in a senior or in a title level. There's a lot of our employees here that don't want to go up in the company. They like coming in and working their 8 hours and not thinking about it when they go home, but they want to take a lot of pride in what they do. And so seeing that, and then you're dealing with your suppliers and your retailers and giving everybody that touches our company a better way of life. And that brings me, to the point of, that's my vocation in life. I thought at one time that God might be calling to be a priest, a minister. And I realized after a lot of prayer and really seeking is this is a ministry.
Yeah.
This is a ministry, and it's go out and preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. Yeah, I hope that they can see what we're building here is much bigger than boots. And I always tell our team members out there is be a light in the industry. There's so many negative things in everything you touch. And if we can be that light that's burning strong, and especially during COVID, we were able to keep this little engine running down here, and it wasn't easy. It was, it was keep your head down, keep pushing. There's a lot of retailers that are depending on what we're doing down here to keep their communities. Because like you said, mom and pop operations in small little towns, they're probably one of the bigger employers in town. They're probably one of the bigger supporters to their church or to their booster clubs or FFA or 4-H. They're probably financially supporting a lot of restaurants and businesses in there. And if they don't have good quality product to sell to their customers, they're out of business. And so you
Yeah.
touch a lot of lives, and then you go up the chain to the suppliers and things. So anyway, I think that's a little different approach that we take than it's not all about the bottom line.
Yeah, my coaching mentor once said, if you don't have a higher purpose, you're never going to win until you have a higher purpose than winning. And early on in my career, I didn't really understand what he meant by that. But as you get a little more life experience and you mature, you start to figure that out. And it's about having that higher purpose. And then when that drives you, it's interesting how success becomes a bit more of a natural byproduct of those other things that you're doing, you know.
So, and people want to be a part of it. And I think that's the thing, whenever they see that spirit, that energy, that passion that comes from this company, is they want to be a part of it, whether it's a retailer wanting to buy product for us or just trying to find the right team members. It makes it a lot easier whenever they're sending you their resumes, because they love what we do and want to be a part of it. And that's exciting.
Yeah. And if you don't know Ryan, he has this infectious enthusiasm that I can see why people would want to be a part of what's going on there. I got to walk the floor, visit the different workstations, like from step one until like boots, get in a box and go out the door. He took me through, and every single person he's on a first name basis with, he knows them all. They would stop what they were doing, introduce themselves to me, like, who am I, you know? And Ryan would have a quick conversation with him where he could answer a question. They were problem solving with him kind of on the fly. And it was fun to watch. And that is one of the most impressive things about your culture is, people are comfortable having those conversations with you. You know them all. There's a genuine connection there, and there's genuine trust. And I think that's, one of the things I love about you guys, that I know that's not changing anytime soon.
It's one of the challenges. The more you grow, the more it's harder to keep that. And I mean, we're up to 200 plus employees, and I wish I could say that I knew everybody's name, but it's the more you grow, the more you want to make sure you don't lose the focus on what's most important. And you're exactly right.
Everybody I met through you, as you walked me around, you knew them. So you had a perfect record that day, Ryan. But it's interesting. Like, you've heard of the DuPont company, right? They make Gore-Tex fabrics. Gore-Tex. Yeah. So, when they expanded beyond 150 people, they built a different building and they put 150 more people in there. And it's something called Dunbar's Law. We're all, like, our brains, the way we're wired, we're only really capable of maintaining about 150 relationships in total, and, they're kind of like concentric circles. You have, your closest 5 people are like your family, and then your immediate family. And the second circle is like your relatives. And the next circle is kind of like your friends and colleagues. And it would grow outwardly by, like, 5 to 10 people, and you're only really capable of maintaining 150 at a time. And I think there's just a lot of truth to that. Dunbar, who was a sociologist, studied like ancient tribes, and they found like the most successful tribes that had the least amount of like dissent and who had the most functional villages were 150 or smaller. And so it's just there's a lot behind that, and it's tough to navigate, that's for sure. And if you work at a big company, what you can't touch them all, but what can you influence, and start from there. As you're listening to this, Ryan's packed an awful lot of wisdom and insight into a 60-minute conversation that on the surface might seem like it's about cowboy boots. It's about way more than that, but I do encourage you to pick up a pair of boots, whether they're Rios of Mercedes or Anderson Bean or Horsepower or Olathe. Ryan, what's the best way for someone to do that? And I ask you that because I had my eye on a pair of I believe they're bison. They were the Lone Star, literally Texas flag uppers made of bison. And there's only one place that only one retailer carried it, which I thought was interesting. And then I remembered, oh yes, it's Anderson Bean. They're going to be very custom to a specific retailer. It was Texas Boot Company. And what was really cool about that was I went and got those boots, and with it came a handwritten card thanking me from the actual retailer themselves. Where should someone, as they're like looking at your suite of products and they want to go buy themselves a pair of boots, what's the best way to navigate that process?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, as much as I'd love for you to get in our boots, get in a pair of boots. I mean, really, I think that'll make you realize how you feel. You feel different. You walk a little taller. You walk a little more confident whenever you've got a pair of cowboy boots on it. So people talk about Tecovas and some of these. Man, get in boots, and then you can maybe work your way over to some of ours. Maybe ours isn't the right style, but don't let that keep you away. But yeah, I mean, you can go to any one of our websites, those brands that we've already said, Rios of Mercedes.com, and then you'll see our family of brands logos, so you can get on all of them from there. Obviously, social media, we've got a really, I'd say, strong Instagram following on some of our pages. Again, same thing. I mean, you can.
My wife catches me scrolling through Instagram, and she's like, "Oh, you're looking at boot porn again." I'm like, huh? Because it's like all like I'm like liking and commenting on like Rios pictures or Anderson Bean or one of your retailers tagged you in their story, you reposted it. So my wife refers to me on social media as looking at boot porn, which I just thought was hilarious. But I have to say this for all my listeners: if you think like boots sound like they'd be uncomfortable, they're actually the most comfortable things I wear. And whenever I go speaking, or if I'm on my feet all day doing training, whatever it is, like I'm in my Anderson Bean boots. And I don't say that because, oh, hey, I have Ryan on the podcast and I'm his official, unofficial, freelance, self-proclaimed celebrity spokesperson / brand ambassador. I say that because they're legitimately the most comfortable things I own. When I take them off at the end of the day, my feet feel just as good as when I put them on. I can't say that about anything else. I do not own Rios of Mercedes boots. I only own Anderson Bean, but they're as comfortable as a pair of sneakers to me. So you can all take that for what it's worth. I'm not shamelessly shilling for Ryan and his company, being sincere. And, you know, I don't throw praise around lightly or say that about things that I don't own, use, or believe. So I really love what you're doing. I love the product. It's quality. I've been in those boots forever, and it's going to stay that way. What would be one last piece of advice that just sort of synthesizes what we've talked about? You know, maybe it's you're talking right now, let's say, to a new leader is listening, or maybe it's somebody who has been in their role for a long time and really kind of needs to expand or reinvent what they're doing. What's the best piece of advice you can give someone who's listening to this right now as they're thinking like, well, where do I start with all this?
I'm going to say that the thing that I think impacted me most as a kid was my dad made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. And whenever you take that time, whether it be your retailer or a supplier or a factory manager or the purchasing, is invest in other people. And you get to a point where you can only do so much personally. You can pour your time and effort into making yourself as smart as possible, be an expert in things, and then you get to where you can't do anymore and you need to build a team around you. And if you're that arrogant guy that thinks he can do everything better than everybody else, you're never going to have a team. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and I never will be, and I don't want to be, but I'm that guy that can attract people because I'm going to invest in them, and I'm going to put the time and effort into listening and what can I do to make them want to do what we need to do as a company. And same thing from the retailer, is that listening is, what can I do to make your job easier? How can I build you product that you're going to want to have in your store? So I I'd say that's probably the greatest thing that I've learned from my ability to build teamwork is if I'm just focused on myself, it's never going to happen.
And the interesting thing about that to me, Ryan, is it's a soft skill. Everyone's looking for like the hacks, the life hacks, the business hacks, the tricks, the tactics, the shortcuts, or, you know, what's this one technical thing that's just going to move the needle? And it's actually a soft skill. It's human relations. Yeah. But it's the software that really drives the hardware with any machinery, whether it's a business, your brain, or just your interaction with people on your team. So yeah, that's a great place to wrap up. I want to remind everybody to, and I'll put a link to the Rios of Mercedes family of brands in the episode description so you can get in touch with them, check out everything they have to offer. And Ryan, thanks so much for coming on. I've always respected and admired you, and I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you making time for us today, and you packed an awful lot in there, so thank you.
Well, John, I want to thank you, and I know your efforts and work goes probably not as appreciated as you would know. A lot of times I read your emails and see your posts, and I'll read them, think I should send something, and then we get distracted and things. But you know, you're one of those guys that's always made me feel like, I mean, I've never had anybody have me in a book before, and that was it was a really cool thing, but it made me feel smart, made me feel special, and I'm not, but you made me feel that way. And then just the way you're hyping me up today too is you've got a real gift at that ability to make people feel really special. And so I encourage you to keep up the good work. I know you struggle with staying up and trying to have that energy for other people, because people lean on you all the time and take, and that reservoir gets worn down sometimes. So you're in my thoughts and prayers a lot, buddy, and I'm real proud of you for all the work that you're doing and all the lives you're touching. And I appreciate you touching mine. So thanks for the time.
Appreciate you, man. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to end the recording, and then we can wrap up. Folks, it's been the Coach Brew Podcast. I want to thank Ryan Vaughan and the Rios of Mercedes family of brands. Make sure you check out their website. And if you haven't already, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with someone, especially this episode, someone you think needs to hear what Ryan had to say, or is trying to reinvent what they're doing, and maybe could use maybe it's someone who doesn't listen very well and they need to go on a listening tour. This would be a subtle way to share with them. You need to get better at listening. So thanks again, everybody. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Adios.